For 10,000 years, the Imperium of Man has endured. 10,000 years of faith, of sacrifice, of blood. All of it ended in a single, silent heartbeat. The Emperor is dead. This is what happens in the next 24 hours. On the throne world of Terra, deep within the Sanctum Imperialis, a machine that had screamed for 100 centuries falls quiet. The Golden Throne, the nexus of an empire, goes dark. Its arcane engines sputter, its lights flicker and die, and the ceaseless hum that was the pulse of mankind itself stops. Across the galaxy, a collective scream tears through the void. A million navigator eyes, bred to see a single brilliant light, now see only an abyss. The Astronomicon, the great beacon of humanity, has been extinguished. They are blinded, lost, adrift in an ocean of madness that now has no shore. And the ocean responds. The Immaterium, once held back by the Emperor's will, now boils over. Warp storms, ancient and hungry, erupt across the stars, tearing reality asunder. The arteries of the Imperium freeze, then burst. The foundation of humanity has cracked. The consequences will be absolute. This is the timeline of the end, and perhaps of a new beginning. The first minute is defined not by a bang, but by a profound and unnatural silence. In the throne room, the Adeptus Custodes, golden giants who have not known doubt for centuries, feel it first. It is not a sound they hear, but a presence they lose. A psychic weight that has defined their entire existence, their very souls, vanishes in an instant. A purpose 10 millennia old, erased. Some fall to their knees, their gilded armor clattering on the marble floor, a sound louder than any thunder in the sudden quiet. The tech priests of the cult Mechanicus are next. Their augmetic senses register a cascade of failures that defy all logic, all ritual. The Golden Throne is not merely malfunctioning, it has ceased to be. Canticles of maintenance turn to shrieks of scrap code terror. They claw at their red robes. Their machine god has become a corpse, a chair of dead metal. Then comes the first catastrophic consequence. On Terra, the soul-binding ceremony, the ritual that harnesses the power of 1,000 psychers to feed the Astronomicon, fails. The psychic anchor that held their minds in check snaps. In the great chamber of the astropaths, a wave of pure agony erupts. Minds that were once conduits for the Emperor's light are now open gateways to the abyss. Hundreds detonate in sprays of blood and warp fire. Hundreds more are consumed from within, their bodies twisting into gateways for things that should not exist. Across the Imperial Palace, the machine spirit of the ancient fortress reacts. Great brass doors, heavy as mountains, slam shut, sealing off entire sectors. Emergency lighting bathes the golden halls in a blood-red glow. Across 1,000 scriptoriums and chapels, synchronized chants halt mid-syllable. The heart of the Imperium has stopped. The body does not yet know it is dead, but the tremors have begun. The vast, cavernous chamber of the Senatorum Imperialis is a place of shadows and echoes. Light from colossal 1,000-year-old lumen globes struggles to pierce the gloom, catching the dust of ages that hangs in the still air. Here, the 12 High Lords of Terra, the most powerful mortals in 1,000,000 worlds, are gathered. They are not seated in council. They are arguing, their voices sharp and discordant in the echoing space. The topic, as it has been for weeks, is the allocation of fleet resources to a dozen different war zones. Then the great doors, each one a fortress gate of brass and adamantium, swing open. They do not creak. They move with a silent, ominous weight that stills every tongue. Framed in the archway is a single figure, Shield Captain Ixion of the Adeptus Custodes, Tribune of the Companions. He is a giant in Oromite, his golden armor so bright it seems to create its own light in the oppressive darkness of the hall. He takes 3 slow, deliberate steps into the chamber, each footfall a hammer blow of judgment on the marble floor. His ornate guardian spear is held at rest, but it radiates a lethal promise. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. The silence he carries with him is a physical force, a void that suffocates their petty squabbles. It is Cardinal Apostolic Baltherium, his face a mask of indignant piety beneath a towering mitre, who breaks the spell. "Tribune," he booms, his voice accustomed to filling cathedrals. "This chamber is sacrosanct. Your interruption is unwar." Ixion's gaze, cold and ancient, cuts him off. The shield captain's voice, when it comes, is not loud. It is a low, resonant tone, like stone grinding against stone, and it fills the chamber more completely than any shout. The master of mankind is silent. The golden throne is dark. The light has failed. For a full 10 seconds, the only sound is the quiet hum of the chamber's life support. The Lord Commander Militant, a grizzled veteran with a face like a star chart of scars, grips the arms of his throne, his knuckles white. The Fabricator General of Mars emits a low burst of static, his machine mind processing a conclusion that defies all sacred logic. The inquisitorial representative, a figure cloaked in shadow and secrecy, simply melts deeper into the darkness, his presence becoming a point of absolute cold. The Cardinal is the first to find his voice again, and it is a shriek of denial. "Heresy! This is blasphemy! You dare speak such—" "I speak the truth," Ixion states, his words an epitaph. He turns, his golden cloak sweeping across the floor, and walks back out of the chamber, leaving the High Lords to their new reality. The foundation of their universe has been removed, and they are left suspended over an abyss of absolute chaos. Far above them, in the command deck of the Custodian Guard's flagship, the Hegemon, Captain General Trajan Valoris watches a hololithic display of the Sol system. He has not bothered to inform the High Lords. Personally, Ixion was a courtesy. Valoris deals in reality, not politics. The data streams cascading before him are a torrent of catastrophe, the psychic shockwave, the failure of the Astronomicon, the sudden, terrifying silence in the Immaterium. He looks at the Sol system display, at the thin, fragile lines of imperial authority stretching out into the void. He feels no grief. Grief is an indulgence. He feels only the cold, hard weight of duty. He turns to his bridge officers, their faces pale even in the glow of the hololiths. "Enact Sun Eater Protocol," Valoris commands, his voice flat and final. "Full system lockdown. Seal the stable warp routes at Pluto and Jupiter. No vessel enters. No astropathic signal leaves. This is now the tomb of our God, and we are its guardians." Across the system, 1,000 alarms begin to sound. A great iron curtain, forged of naval firepower and custodian resolve, begins to descend around the cradle of humanity. The psychic death knell ripples outward. In the great choir chamber of the Astropath's Telepathica, a vast pit where 1,000 blindfolded psychers sit upon 1,000 thrones, the symphony of galactic thought ends in a single discordant shriek. For a moment, their minds, severed from the Emperor's anchor, are filled with a terrifying absolute silence. And then the silence the psychic death knell ripples outward. In the great choir chamber of the astropath's telepathica, a vast pit where 1,000 blindfolded psychers sit upon 1,000 thrones, the symphony of galactic thought ends in a single, discordant shriek. For a moment, their minds, severed from the Emperor's anchor, are filled with a terrifying, absolute silence. And then the silence is filled by the raw, howling madness of the warp. The backlash is not merely mental, it is physical. A wave of force erupts from the center of the choir, vaporizing the first 100 thrones. Psychers detonate in explosions of pink and blue warp fire, their souls consumed in an instant. Others are twisted into screaming, fleshy gateways, their mouths gaping impossibly wide as demonic entities claw their way into reality, birthed from the wreckage of a human mind. The chamber becomes a charnel house, a nexus of horror where the Imperium's greatest tool of communication becomes its newest, most terrifying wound. Thousands of light years away, aboard the Imperial Fist's strike cruiser, Vigilance Unyielding, Chapter Master Kalen stands on the bridge. The ship shudders as its lances gut a greenskin rock. The battle for Sector Cygnus has been brutal, but victory is close. Yet Kalen feels a profound wrongness. A cold void has opened in his soul, a feeling he has not known since the darkest days of his training. His ship's navigator stumbles from his sanctum, tearing at the blindfold that covers his third eye. "My lord, the light, it is gone," he screams before collapsing, his body convulsing. Kalen needs no further confirmation. The knowledge settles into his bones, a cold and heavy certainty passed down through his gene seed, an echo of his Primarch's final command. The last wall. He turns to his Vox officer, his voice calm, betraying none of the cold dread gripping his heart. "Signal the fleet, disengage, all ships, make best speed for the Sol system. Navigation will be blind. Casualties will be absolute. We do it anyway, for Dorn, for the throne." The Vigilance Unyielding turns, leaving the battle behind. A crusade is abandoned. An entire sector is left to its fate. Across the galaxy, dozens of other chapter masters of Dorn's lineage make the same impossible choice, their fleets turning to make a desperate, unguided pilgrimage back to a home that no longer calls to them, filled by the raw, howling madness of the warp. The backlash is not merely mental, it is physical. A wave of force erupts from the center of the choir, vaporizing the first 100 thrones. Psychers detonate in explosions of pink and blue warp fire, their souls consumed in an instant. Others are twisted into screaming, fleshy gateways, their mouths gaping impossibly wide as demonic entities claw their way into reality, birthed from the wreckage of a human mind. The chamber becomes a charnel house, a nexus of horror where the Imperium's greatest tool of communication becomes its newest, most terrifying wound. Thousands of light years away, aboard the Imperial Fist's strike cruiser, Vigilance Unyielding, Chapter Master Kalen stands on the bridge. The ship shudders as its lances gut a greenskin rock. The battle for Sector Cygnus has been brutal, but victory is close. Yet Kalen feels a profound wrongness. A cold void has opened in his soul, a feeling he has not known since the darkest days of his training. His ship's navigator stumbles from his sanctum, tearing at the blindfold that covers his third eye. "My lord, the light, it is gone," he screams before collapsing, his body convulsing. Kalen needs no further confirmation. The knowledge settles into his bones, a cold and heavy certainty passed down through his gene seed, an echo of his Primarch's final command. The last wall. He turns to his Vox officer, his voice calm, betraying none of the cold dread gripping his heart. "Signal the fleet. Disengage. All ships make best speed for the Sol system. Navigation will be blind. Casualties will be absolute. We do it anyway. For Dorne. For the throne." The vigilance. Unyielding turns, leaving the battle behind. A crusade is abandoned. An entire sector is left to its fate. Across the galaxy, dozens of other chapter masters of Dorne's lineage make the same impossible choice. Their fleets turning to make a desperate, unguided pilgrimage back to a home that no longer calls to them. The Ecclesiarchy's cathedrals on Terra are built to inspire awe, their spires scraping the smog ceiling, their interiors vast enough to contain the faith of entire nations. In the Basilica of the Emperor Deified, Cardinal Baltherium stands before the grand altar, leading a prayer of millions. He can feel the great silence now. It is a hollow ache in the universe, a spiritual vacuum where the radiant presence of the God Emperor should be. His own faith, once a roaring fire, feels like dying embers. His voice, amplified by sonic shrines, cracks as he chants the litany of protection. The crowd feels it too. Their unified prayer is a shield, a desperate wall of belief against the encroaching silence. But there are cracks in the wall. A woman in the front row begins to weep, her cries cutting through the hymns. Soon, 100 others join her, then 1,000. The prayer falters, replaced by a rising tide of collective, terrified grief. That fear spills out onto the streets. In the mid-hives, Arbites in black carapace armor form shield walls against mobs trying to storm grain silos, their shock mauls cracking against bone. But it is in the underhive, in the perpetual twilight, where 1 billion souls toil in service to a god they have never seen, that the despair truly takes root. Rumors, mutated and monstrous, spread faster than any plague. "The throne has fallen. The sky is bleeding. The demons are coming." In a makeshift shrine lit by a single, flickering candle, a redemptionist preacher with eyes full of fire screams at his flock. "Our God has turned his face from us. We are unworthy. Only the pyre can purify our failure." He douses himself in promethium, and as his followers chant, he strikes a match. His final sermon is a scream of agony, a human torch that casts long, dancing shadows on the faces of those who will soon follow him into the fire. Terra, the Holy of Holies, the heart of the Imperium, has not suffered a single blow from an external enemy. But in 3 short hours, it has become a world at war with itself, drowning in the silence left by a dead god. The shockwave hits the Navis Nobilite like a physical blow. Aboard the Chartist vessel Star of Gathalamor, navigating a treacherous warp route near the Eye of Terror, High Navigator Kaelin Vek opens his third eye and sees nothing. For his entire life, that eye has opened to a sun, a psychic lighthouse of impossible brilliance. Now there is only a void, a suffocating absolute blackness that is not merely the absence of light, but a presence of its own. It is the color of true despair. His scream is not of the body, but of the soul. The delicate psychic architecture of his mind, meticulously crafted over generations of breeding, shatters. The Geller field protecting the Star of Gathalamor flickers, the psychic hum of its emitters faltering as Kaelin Vek's mind collapses. For a single, terrifying moment, the ship is exposed. Through the viewport, the crew sees reality peel back. The swirling, chaotic colors of the warp are replaced by 1 billion leering, hungry eyes. The hull groans as ethereal claws, vast as mountain ranges, scrape against the adamantium. Then the Geller field reasserts itself, its blue shimmer snapping back into place. But it is too late. The ship is no longer a vessel. It is a tomb adrift in a sea of nightmares, its destination erased, its navigator a catatonic shell, his third eye weeping blood onto the deck. Across 1,000,000 light years, this scene repeats itself on tens of thousands of ships. Imperial Navy battle fleets, rogue trader flotillas, black ship transports carrying their psychic cargo, all are cast adrift. Some are swallowed whole by the suddenly ravenous warp. Others are becalmed, their crews facing the slow, horrifying prospect of starvation or madness. Their last words scrawled on bulkheads no one will ever read. The great arteries of the Imperium have not just been blocked, they have been severed, and its lifeblood is now poison. The echoes of the Great Death ripple through the very fabric of existence, and the galaxy's other inhabitants feel it with unnerving clarity. On craft world Ulthwé, the seer-haunted vessel that skirts the Eye of Terror, a conclave of farseers is gathered around the dome of crystal seers. They had been scrying the future, watching the tangled skeins of fate, when a wave of psychic static washed over them. Now, one of them, the ancient and revered Eldrad Ulthrin, staggers back, a hand pressed to his temple. The runes he had cast clatter to the floor, all showing the same symbol, the tower struck by lightning, the end of an age. "The Mon-K god is dead," he whispers, his voice filled with a mixture of horror and grim satisfaction. The Great Barrier has fallen. The other seers cry out, not in triumph, but in terror. For millennia, the Emperor, for all his barbarity, had been a bulwark, a psychic dam holding back the full tide of chaos. His very existence was a painful burning light to the great enemy. Now that light is gone, the laughter of she who thirsts, the great devourer of their race, echoes a little louder in their minds. The path to their own doom just became shorter and steeper. Deep in the intergalactic void, a consciousness vast beyond mortal comprehension stirs. The hive mind of the Tyrannid race, a being of pure, unified hunger, senses not a death, but an absence. A great psychic gravity well that had subtly influenced its advance for centuries has vanished. The shadow in the warp, the psychic dampening field that precedes its swarms, now has one less obstacle to overcome. Tendrils of Hive Fleet, Leviathan, vast bioships that blot out stars, begin to shift their trajectory. A new, undefended feeding ground has just appeared on their cosmic map. They do not know it is Terra. They only know it is a beacon of biomass, now unprotected by the psychic fire that once warned them away. And on the tomb world of Mandragora, in a stasis crypt untouched for 60 million years, a silent command flows through circuits of living metal. Zarek, the Silent King, last ruler of the Necrontier, feels the shift in the Empyrean. The great enemy grows stronger. The plans for the great work, the final severing of the material universe from the immaterial, must be accelerated. Across 1,000 dormant worlds, legions of silent, skeletal warriors begin to stir, their soulless eyes glowing with green light. Humanity's watch has ended. The true, ancient masters of the galaxy are returning to claim their inheritance. The reaction in the Eye of Terror is not one of subtle recognition, but of explosive, exultant celebration. On the demon world of Sycharis, a planet forged from the rage of Khorne, the sky rains blood. World Eaters, their white and blue armor stained crimson, howl in triumph as demons of the Blood God manifest in their thousands, no longer needing a tear in reality to cross over. The veil is thin, the barrier is gone. In the planet of the sorcerers, acolytes of Tzeentch see their prophecies, written in fire on scrolls of human skin, come to pass. The labyrinthine towers of their home world shift and writhe in joy, reality itself bending to the will of the architect of fate. But it is on the bridge of the Vengeful Spirit, the ancient and terrible flagship of the Black Legion, that the news truly lands. Abaddon the Despoiler, War Master of Chaos, heir of Horus, stands before a hololithic display of the galaxy. He sees the warp storms erupting, the Astronomican's light vanishing. For a moment, he says nothing. His face, a mask of scars and hatred, is unreadable. Then a low, rumbling chuckle begins in his chest. It grows into a full-throated laugh, a sound of pure, triumphant malice that echoes through the bridge. 10,000 years, he roars, the talon of Horus crackling with dark energy at his side. 10,000 years of living in the shadow of a corpse. The long war is not over, it has just been won. He turns to his lieutenants, their warped and demonic faces alight with adoration. Rally the warbands, summon the legions, unleash the fleets. The throne world is blind and defenseless. We will not just burn it, we will feast on its ashes. Yet, even in his moment of triumph, a flicker of doubt remains. Is it a trap? Could the anathema, his father's great enemy, truly be dead? Or is this an ascension, a transformation into something far more dangerous? The doubt lingers, a cold kernel of caution in the heart of his fiery hatred. He will proceed, but he will proceed with the cunning of a predator that has stalked its prey for 10 millennia. The final hunt has begun. The first tier appears not in the void, but on Terra itself. In the Basilica of the Seven Martyrs, in the heart of the Ecclesiarchal Palace district, a priest is delivering a sermon of desperate hope. He speaks of the Emperor's trials, of divine silence as a test of faith. As his voice reaches a crescendo, the stained glass window behind him, depicting the Emperor's triumph over the arch-traitor Horus, begins to weep blood. The congregation gasps, some falling to their knees in awe, believing in a miracle. But the blood is hot, and it sizzles where it touches the marble, burning black, acrid smoke into the air. The image on the glass distorts. The Emperor's noble features twist into a mask of agonized fury, while the face of Horus morphs into a leering, triumphant visage. The glass does not shatter. It melts, sagging like hot wax, and from the molten, bleeding portal, a figure steps forth. It is a bloodletter of Khorne, a sinewy, red-skinned demon with a long, cruel blade of hell-forged brass. It takes a breath of the sanctified air and exhales a cloud of sulfur. Then, with a roar that is a symphony of slaughter, it leaps into the crowd. Panic erupts. The sacred basilica becomes a slaughterhouse. Faith is no shield against a demon's blade. This is not a strategic incursion. It is a statement. A single demon manifesting in one of the holiest places on Terra is a symbol of absolute violation. The barrier, the psychic ward that has protected the throne world for millennia, is not just weakened, it is broken. Word of the diamond sighting spreads through the palace voxnet like a virus. The Adeptus Custodes are dispatched, their golden armor a stark contrast to the blood-soaked marble of the basilica. They find the daemon standing atop a pile of bodies, its blade dripping, its inhuman laughter echoing in the desecrated hall. The battle is short, brutal, and absolute. The custodians are perfection. They banish the entity back to the warp, but the damage is done. The psychic wound it has left behind continues to bleed, a beacon for others of its kind. Meanwhile, in the maelstrom, a swirling vortex of warp energy second only to the Eye of Terror, Huron Blackheart, the tyrant of Badab, smiles. He watches the Astronomican's absence on his arcane scanners and sees not just an opportunity for conquest, but for profit. He sends out a single, encrypted message to every pirate fleet, every renegade warband, every corsair prince in the segmentum. The Imperium is a galleon with a broken rudder, adrift in a storm. Its holds are full. Take what you will. The message is a spark in a powder keg. Anarchy, always simmering at the edges of the Imperium, is about to boil over. The Word-bearers, the original apostles of chaos, receive the news as divine vindication. On the demon world of Sicarus, Dark Apostle Erebus, the architect of the Horus heresy, stands before the eternal litany, a vast, pulsating tome of living flesh. The pages, written in the blood of saints, have rewritten themselves. The final prophecy, the one Lorgar Aurelian had foreseen 10,000 years ago, is now inscribed on its surface. The corpse god has fallen. The primordial truth is ascendant. Across the planet, great bells of beaten flesh begin to toll a funeral dirge that is also a victory hymn. Word-bearer legions, their crimson armor covered in blasphemous scripture, begin to muster. Their crusade will not be one of simple destruction. It will be a pilgrimage of conversion. They will not just burn the Imperium. They will tear down its cathedrals and erect new ones to the true gods. They will force humanity to kneel, to see the truth that their Primarchs saw so long ago. Their war will be one of the soul. Aboard the Vengeful Spirit, Abaddon stands before his war council. Gathered around him are the greatest champions of the Black Legion, Falcus Kibre, the former Luna Wolf, his face a grim caricature of his noble past, Iskandar Kayon, the sorcerer, his eyes glowing with arcane power, Ceranos, the demon prince, his form a twisted mockery of an Astartes. The anathema is dead, Abaddon declares, his voice cutting through the expectant silence. But the Regent Gilliman and his brother, the Lion, still stand on Terra. They will fortify the throne world. They will expect a direct assault. They will expect us to throw ourselves against their walls as Horus did. He pauses, letting the weight of his words settle. We will not repeat my father's mistakes. Our attack will not be a single hammer blow. It will be 1,000 poison daggers. We will strike not just at Sul, but at every major forge world, every naval station, every shrine world we can reach. We will bleed the Imperium at every artery. We will stoke the fires of every rebellion. By the time our main fleet reaches Terra, it will not be the heart of an empire. It will be an isolated island of grief in a galaxy of fire. He looks at Kayon. Sorcerer, find me paths. The warp is our ocean now. I want our fleets to appear from nowhere, to strike without warning. The age of hiding in the eye is over. He turns his burning gaze to the hololith of the galaxy, at the single, defiant point of light that is Sol. Let the galaxy burn. The illusion of unity within the Senatorum Imperialis shatters. The High Lords, locked in their council chamber by custodian decree, turn on one another. The initial shock has curdled into paranoia and naked ambition. Lord Commander Militant Theodred, his face a thundercloud, slams a gauntleted fist on the great stone table. The solar system is compromised. The Imperial Fist successors are blind and scattered. We must declare martial law across the entire segmentum, effective immediately. All resources are to be diverted to the Praetorian Guard. And leave the rest of the Imperium to rot, sneers the master of the Administratum, a man whose corpulent form is testament to a life spent behind a desk, not a barricade. The tithes must continue, order must be maintained. Without the Administratum, the Imperium is a body without a skeleton. Your soldiers will starve on their walls without our scribes to supply them. Cardinal Baltharium, his face pale with a fanatic's sweat, rises, pointing a trembling finger at the Fabricator General. This is the machine cult's doing. Their failure to maintain the throne has doomed us all. They have committed the ultimate heresy. The Fabricator General, a crimson-robed monstrosity of flesh and metal, responds with a burst of binary cant, a string of furious machine code that translates on the chamber's data slates as the Omnissiah's great work was sabotaged by the ignorance of flesh. Your superstitious mummery weakened its spirit. The argument descends into a cacophony of shouting, accusations, and threats. These are not leaders guiding humanity through its darkest hour. They are vultures fighting over the carcass of a dead empire, each trying to carve out the largest piece before the whole thing rots away. The schism of the Adeptus Mechanicus begins. On Mars, the red planet, the news of the Golden Throne's failure is not a matter of faith, but of catastrophic data corruption. The Noosphere, the psychic data network that connects the tech priests, is flooded with error messages and panicked code litanies. In the great forges of Olympus Mons, Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Cowl, a figure ancient even by the standards of the Mechanicus, feels the silence. He has been connected to the throne systems for centuries, a secret and unsanctioned link. Now that link is dead. He knows with cold, irrefutable logic that the primary directive, the preservation of the Imperium, is now in direct conflict with the authority of a headless Terra. He issues a single, system-wide command from his secret laboratories. Isolate the Martian network. Repel all external data incursions. Await my signal. The age of flesh is over. The age of iron begins. It is a declaration of independence, cloaked in the language of security protocols. He will save humanity, but he will do it his way, under the laws of the machine, not the broken laws of men. Simultaneously, in the dark forges of the Hell's Anvil subsector, a different kind of message spreads. Kelbor Howl's disciples, the Dark Mechanicum, who have hidden within the Martian cult for millennia, see their moment. They begin broadcasting scrap code viruses, demonic algorithms that turn loyal servitors into ravening killers and benevolent machine spirits into malevolent technogeists. The civil war for the soul of the machine has begun. The arteries of commerce are the first to be claimed by scavengers. Aboard the rogue trader flagship Pride of Elysia, Captain Elena Vore watches the warp through her ship's main viewport. It is a roiling, angry sea she can no longer navigate. Her navigator is dead. Her astropaths are mad. Her charter of trade, granted by the High Lords of Terra, is now a worthless piece of parchment. She is the absolute ruler of a fleet of 40 ships, a city-state in the void, and her loyalty was to the Imperium. But what is the Imperium now? A distant memory, a dead god. She turns to her first mate, her face set like flint. Recall the fleet. We set course for the unclaimed worlds of the Halo stars. Our charter is now our own. The Vore dynasty answers to no throne but this one. Send word to the other dynasties. The age of trade is over. The age of kings has begun. Across the galaxy, hundreds of other rogue traders make the same calculation. Their micro-empires, once the vanguards of imperial expansion, now become independent fiefdoms, pirate kingdoms built on the wreckage of galactic trade. The true scale of the isolation becomes a terrifying, immediate reality. In the Segmentum Pacificus, a region of space already considered a fringe territory, Lord Governor Marius of the Ultima Macaria system stands in his astropathic sanctum. The chamber, usually a low hum of whispered messages and psychic resonance, is now as silent as a tomb. His primary astropath lies dead at the foot of his throne, black blood trickling from eye sockets that have been burned to hollowed-out ash. The dozen other members of his choir are either slumped over, catatonic, or are being restrained by armed guards as they scream incomprehensible prophecies into the air. For the past several hours, every frantic attempt to reach Segmentum Command on Kardunyash, or even just a neighboring subsector, has failed. The psychic void is absolute. It is like screaming for help in a vacuum. This silence is the final damning piece of evidence. His Segmentum is beset by an orc wag from the galactic north and a Tyrannid splinter fleet probing his southern flank. He was pleading for aid. Now, there is no one to plead to. The Imperium, the vast galaxy-spanning entity that demanded his loyalty and his tithes, has ceased to exist for him in the span of a single morning. He walks with heavy steps to the balcony of his palace, the cold void of space reflected in the reinforced plasteel. He looks up at the stars, which no longer seem like bastions of human civilization, but like cold, indifferent diamonds on a black shroud. He is alone. He turns to his assembled generals and planetary lords, their faces grim, all of them having received the same reports of silence and madness from their own astropaths. Terra is silent, he announces, his voice heavy with a grief that is also a newfound, terrible freedom. The Emperor's light, the bond that held us together, guides us no longer. We have been abandoned to the dark. He lets the weight of that statement settle in the cold air. But we are not lost. We are the inheritors of his legacy, of humanity's will to survive. From this day forward, I declare the Segmentum Pacificus to be the Imperium Secundus, a new bastion of mankind in the coming night. We will weather this storm. We will endure, and we will do it alone. It is a speech of defiance, of hope, but it is also an act of secession, born not of ambition, but of sheer, terrifying necessity. The Imperium of Man, the great monolithic empire that spanned the galaxy, is dead. In its place, 1,000 smaller, weaker empires are being born, each one an island in a rising tide of darkness. each one destined to fight and die alone. On the bone-white Wraithbone Bridge of Craftworld Iyanden, the air shimmers with psychic grief. The Ghost Council, a ruling body of living seers and the spirits of the dead encased in Wraithbone constructs, is in turmoil. The psychic scream of the Emperor's death was a cataclysmic event, a thunderclap in the great ocean of the warp that has sent tidal waves of prophecy crashing down upon them. Prince Iriel, the stoic and battle-hardened autarch, stands with his hand on the hilt of the Spear of Twilight. His mortal eyes see the frantic, silent debate of the Farseers, but his warrior's soul feels the shift in the balance of power. The throne world is exposed, he states, his voice a low growl that cuts through the psychic chorus. The great enemy will flock to it like carrion birds. This is our chance. We can strike at the heart of the Mon-Ki Empire while its guardians are distracted. We can reclaim the treasures they stole from us, the maiden worlds they defiled. Farseer Iana Arianal, the angel of Iyanden, her spirit burning brightly even within her wizened form, turns her blind eyes towards him. "And what then, Prince?" she counters, her voice a whisper that carries more weight than any shout. "We bloody ourselves against the ruins of our old rival, only to leave ourselves weakened for the true battle to come? The death of the anathema has unchained she who thirsts. The great devourer's hunger for our souls has sharpened. This is the beginning of the Rana Dandra, the final dance of our doom." The debate rages. Should they attack Terra to reclaim their past? Should they fortify their own craft worlds for the coming darkness? Or should they pursue the desperate final path of Inead, the god of the dead, hoping to birth a new power from the ashes of their dying race? For the Eldar, the Emperor's death is not a simple event. It is a crossroads of prophecies, where every path is lined with thorns, and every choice could lead to their ultimate extinction. Deep beneath the metallic sands of the desert world of Gaiden, a symphony of command protocols echoes through silent, cavernous tombs. Imhotep the Stormlord, Pharaoh of the Sautek dynasty, sits upon his throne of oblivion. His metallic fingers are steepled before his impassive, skeletal face. For hours, his cryptechs have been analyzing the unprecedented surge of empiric energy, the raw chaos bleeding into the materium. The data is conclusive. The psychic anomaly that has held a maddening, disorderly grip on the galaxy for the last 60 million years, the entity the lesser races called an emperor, has been neutralized. The Stormlord does not feel joy. He does not feel triumph. He feels only the cold, satisfying click of a grand galactic equation finally resolving. The primary obstacle to the restoration of Necron Dominion, the psychic chaos that fueled the great enemy, has been critically weakened at its source. He issues a single, silent, galaxy-spanning directive. Enact the final stages of the Awakening Protocol. Bring all tomb worlds to full operational status. The Great Sleep is over. From a million worlds, a silent green light begins to glow. Monoliths of black stone phase into existence, tearing through the surfaces of imperial worlds. Legions of Canoptek constructs swarm from ancient crypts, their multi-lensed eyes surveying a galaxy ripe for cleansing. Dynasties that have been dormant since the war in heaven stir, their lords and overlords receiving the Stormlord's command. They are not launching a chaotic invasion. They are beginning a systematic, logical, and utterly ruthless reclamation of a galaxy that was always rightfully theirs. They will not burn the Imperium. They will methodically dismantle it, world by world, until nothing remains but silence and order. The psychic shockwave of the Emperor's death has a very different effect on the orcs. It is not a sound of grief or a signal of opportunity. It is a challenge. A cosmic-level Gork and Mork-sized fight just kicked off, and they weren't invited. On the scrap heap world of Gorka Morka, the greatest war boss of the era, Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka, feels the psychic energy spike. He feels the raw, concentrated belief and terror of trillions of humans, and it tastes delicious. It is the ultimate psychic fuel for the Wa, the collective psychic field that makes orc technology work and turns a simple mob into an unstoppable green tide. He stands atop a mountain of junked titans and smashed tanks, raising his massive power claw to the sky, which is already turning a sickly green with ambient Wa energy. "Listen up, you gits," he bellows, his voice so powerful it causes avalanches of scrap metal down the mountain. "The biggest humie of 'em all is gone and kicked the bucket. That means there's a big empty throne, and old Gazakal's gonna go sit on it." A roar of approval from a billion orc throats shakes the very foundations of the planet. "They are all gonna be fighting each other. They are all gonna be scared. It's gonna be the best scrap in the history of scrapping. Fire up the rocks, warm up the kill cannons. We're going to Terra. Wow!" The cry is taken up across the planet, and then, psychically, across the entire galaxy. Every orc, from the lowliest grot to the mightiest war boss, feels the call. The great green tide, a force of nature that has always been a scattered, chaotic threat, now begins to coalesce, its myriad streams and rivers turning their flow towards a single, irresistible destination. The hive mind does not think in terms of politics or prophecy. It thinks in terms of biomass and energy. The sudden psychic void left by the Emperor is a vacuum, and a vacuum must be filled. More than that, the psychic death scream of trillions of beings, psychers, astropaths, and panicked citizens, is a dinner bell. A massive expenditure of emotional and spiritual energy that lights up the galaxy like a beacon. In the cold, silent depths of space, the synaptic web that connects the swarms of Hive Fleet Leviathan realigns. Norn Queens, the vast planet-sized bioships at the heart of the fleet, issue new genetic commands. Bio-vessels that were moving towards the Baal system or the Octarius sector halt their advance. They pivot in the void, their movements slow, deliberate, and utterly inexorable. New feeder tendrils, vanguard organisms designed for infiltration and reconnaissance, are spawned in their birthing sacs. Their destination is now locked, the Sol system. The hive mind has identified the source of the great psychic feast. It does not know what a throne is. It does not know what an emperor was. It only knows that the single richest source of biomass in the known galaxy has just advertised its vulnerability. The great devourer has turned its gaze to the cradle of humanity, and its hunger is patient, absolute, and unending. The storm breaks not with a whisper, but with a scream that tears through the fabric of reality itself. A rent in space, a wound of bleeding, impossible colors, opens near the orbit of Neptune. It is not a clean warp jump. It is a violent, chaotic eruption, as if the immaterium itself is vomiting its contents into the material universe. From this festering maw, the first ships of the Chaos Fleet emerge. They are not the sleek, disciplined vessels of the Imperial Navy. They are nightmares of iron and flesh. Ancient cruisers from the time of the Great Crusade, their hulls are now encrusted with millennia of corruption, spiked with grotesque totems of bone and screaming faces. Demonic energies writhe across their armor, and their prows are carved into leering visages of forgotten gods. This is the vanguard of the Black Legion, and they have come for war. At the Phalanx, the immense, continent-sized star fortress of the Imperial Fists, alarms blare, their strident calls echoing through halls built to house a Primarch. Chapter Master Kalen, having arrived just hours before in a desperate blind jump, stands on the command bridge. The view screen shows the impossible, the warp made manifest in his home system. "All hands to battle stations," he commands, his voice a pillar of calm in a storm of rising panic. "Signal the fleet, form defensive line Cinder. We are the wall. We will not break." But they are outnumbered, 100 to 1. The first shots of the new solar war are fired by the guns of the Pluto orbital defense grid. Great macro cannons, each one the size of a hive spire, unleash volley after volley of city-killing shells at the approaching fleet. Lances of pure energy, powered by the plasma hearts of captured stars, spear out into the void, vaporizing trader escorts in flashes of incandescent light. For a moment, the line holds. The sheer, unadulterated firepower of Saul's outermost bastion is terrifying, but the Chaos Fleet does not rely on strategy alone. A word-bearer's battle barge, the testament of Lorgar, pushes forward, its hull glowing with dark runes. It ignores the incoming fire, absorbing blows that should have cracked its spine. As it draws close to the primary defense station, a choir of 1,000 cultists on its bridge completes their final bloody ritual. The station's Geller field does not fail, it inverts. The blue shimmer of reality protection turns a sickly purple, and instead of repelling the warp, it draws it in. Every crew member on the station is transformed into a gibbering, fleshy monstrosity. The station's own guns turn on its sister platforms, and the defensive line tears itself apart from the inside. Chaos does not just fight a war of ships and guns. It fights a war of faith and souls, and in a system reeling from the death of its god, every soul is a potential traitor. The war descends upon Terra itself. With the outer defenses breached, Chaos fleets now swarm the inner system. The sky above the throne world becomes a hellscape of dueling starships. Wreckage, burning and brilliant, becomes a new and deadly ring of asteroids, raining down upon the planet's straining void shields. On the surface, the ground trembles. From the great Titan hangars of the Adeptus Titanicus, the god engines of the Legio Ignatum, the fire wasps, begin their march. Each step of a warlord Titan shakes the bedrock of the continent. Their war horns, vast and deep, are a sound of retribution that has not been heard on Terra for 10,000 years. They march to the outer walls of the Imperial Palace, their forms silhouetted against a sky filled with fire, steel titans ready to face down demonic gods. At the Lion's Gate spaceport, the defense is one of grim, desperate reality. The first trader drop pods, screaming through the atmosphere like black comets, slam into the Ferrocrete landing fields. Their hatches blow open, and from within pour the warriors of the Black Legion, their bolters already roaring. They are met not by titans or custodes, but by the endless, unyielding ranks of the Astra Militarum, the Imperial Guard. Cadian shock troopers, their world shattered, but their spirit unbroken, form firing lines, their lasfire a flickering wall of red light. "For Cadia! For the Emperor!" they scream, the latter a prayer of defiance, a refusal to accept the silence from the throne. They know they will die. Every single one of them knows it. But they will buy time with their lives, creating a rampart of their own bodies to protect the sanctum behind them. The psychic and spiritual madness intensifies. In the convents of the Adepta Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle hear the cacophony. The warp is screaming. Psychers are dying. The faith of 1 trillion souls is wavering. And they, the daughters of the Emperor, feel the great enemy's presence like a physical violation. But there is another presence they feel, the Sisters of Silence. From their fortress on Luna, now a battleground, the Anathema Maidens have returned to Terra in force. They move through the battlefield in silent, inviolate ranks. Where they walk, the power of the warp recedes. Demons shrivel, their forms dissolving. Traitor sorcerers clutch their heads, their powers turning to ash in their minds. The Sisters of Silence do not carry the light of the Emperor. They carry his absence, his opposition to the warp made manifest. They are a walking embodiment of the psychic void, and to the forces of chaos, that void is more terrifying than any blade. They are the final, silent answer to the gibbering madness of the Empyrean, a testament to a war that has always been fought on more than one front. The battle for Terra is no longer a battle. It is an apocalypse. The walls of the Imperial Palace, structures that have stood since the dawn of the Imperium, are now islands in a sea of unending war. The sky is no longer visible, obscured by a perpetual twilight of smoke, ash, and the orbital fires of dying starships. At the very center of this maelstrom, within the Sanctum Imperialis, a different kind of energy is building. The Golden Throne, though dark and inert, has been a focal point of psychic energy for 10 millennia. It is a psychic wound in the fabric of reality, a place where the veil between worlds is thinner than anywhere else in the galaxy. The Emperor's death did not heal that wound. It tore it wide open. A pale, ethereal light begins to emanate from the throne itself. It is not the golden, reassuring light of the past. It is a silver, soul-cold luminescence, the color of starlight seen through a shroud. The custodes guarding the chamber feel it as an immense pressure, a gathering of incalculable power that makes the very atoms of their armor hum. This is the critical moment. The energies unleashed by a psychic being of the Emperor's magnitude upon death do not simply dissipate. They coalesce. They transform. The next 2 hours will not determine the outcome of the battle for Terra. They will determine the fate of humanity's soul for the next million years. The pressure intensifies, and reality in the throne room begins to fray. The silver light pulses, and with each pulse, a different possibility, a different future, echoes into existence, each one fighting for dominance. First, the echo of oblivion. The light flickers and nearly dies. A profound cold fills the chamber, a cold that leaches warmth and hope from the very soul. For a single, terrifying moment, the custodes feel what the navigators felt: absolute nothingness. The great spirit of the Emperor, stretched thin across 10 millennia of agony, has simply ended. It has unraveled, its last energies dissipating into the void like smoke on the wind. He is permanently, irrevocably dead. On the battlefield outside, the consequences are immediate. The last vestiges of faith in the hearts of the Imperial Guard die. The Cadian who was holding the line, driven by a final prayer, now sees only the futility of his sacrifice. His lasgun falters. The demon that was held back by the sheer power of collective human belief now feels that barrier vanish. It surges forward, its claws finding purchase. Across the entire front, the human line begins to crumble, not from a loss of ammunition, but from a loss of will. Chaos is winning, not by strength of arms, but by the sheer, crushing weight of despair. Humanity, without its God, is just another dying species. Second, the echo of ascension. The silver light explodes outward, no longer cold, but blindingly bright, a nova of pure, untamed psychic power. It is not the controlled, focused light of the Astronomicon. It is a chaotic, elemental force. The golden throne cracks, the ancient machinery groaning as it is torn apart from within by the sheer pressure. The Emperor's soul, unshackled from its mortal prison, has not died. It has been born. In the warp, a new star ignites. It is not a star of order or hope, but a maelstrom of raw power. A psychic entity born of 10,000 years of sacrifice, war, and pain. It is a new warp god, a god of humanity, of order, of tyranny. The four great powers of chaos reel back from this nascent presence, not in fear, but in shocked recognition of a new, formidable rival in the great game. On Terra, the effect is terrifying. Imperial guardsmen find their bodies suffused with a golden, agonizing power. Some are immolated, becoming living saints of pure energy. Others find their lasguns firing beams of white-hot soul fire. A sister of battle, leading a charge, is lifted into the air, her eyes blazing as she unleashes a wave of force that atomizes a squad of Black Legionnaires. They are no longer fighting for a dead emperor. They are conduits for a new and terrible god, their mortal wills subsumed by its nascent, overwhelming consciousness. This is not salvation. It is apotheosis, a transformation that will save humanity by destroying what it means to be human. Third, the echo of rebirth. The light does not explode. It coalesces. It shrinks, drawing inward the immense pressure, folding in on itself until all the silver luminescence is contained in a single, silent, human-sized point of light standing before the empty throne. The light fades, not into darkness, but into form. A figure stands there. It is not the giant, armored demigod of imperial propaganda. It is a man, unassuming, clad in simple robes, his features indistinct, yet radiating an aura of ancient, weary power. The Emperor has not ascended. He has been reborn. He is the Star Child, a psychic reincarnation, a physical avatar freed from the prison of the Golden Throne. He looks at his own skeletal remains, a monument to his 10,000-year sacrifice, and then he looks towards the sounds of the battle outside. He is weaker than he once was, a mere fragment of his former power, but he is free. On the walls, a miracle happens. A lone custodian, surrounded and about to be overwhelmed by a tide of demons, sees a simple, robed man appear beside him. The man raises a hand, and the demons do not burn or explode. They simply cease to be, their warp forms unraveling in the face of this quiet, absolute authority. The whispers and visions that soldiers had claimed to see were not echoes. They were the first stirrings of this new beginning. Humanity will not be saved by a god. It will be led, once more, by a man. The three echoes flicker, their realities warring with one another in the heart of the throne room. Oblivion, ascension, rebirth. Outside, the tide of the battle hangs in the balance, a direct reflection of the spiritual war within. The fate of the Imperium, of the entire galaxy, now rests on which of these three possibilities becomes the final, absolute truth. The clock has struck 24. The Emperor is dead. Long live the... what? A god? A man? Or just a memory, fading into the eternal, silent dark? The future has not yet been written.